Whether you love to read or are just starting to get into reading, everyone comes back to how they can read more. For me, it boils down to two different subjects: fun books and challenging books. There's a lot of overlap there: short versus long, nonfiction versus fiction, different categories of topics, but challenge and fun, those are the two things to break it down. So, as an example, I thought I'd walk you through my April reads, show you how I use a pattern to build out the most effective way to read as much as possible. My goal is to read 100 books in 2023, and I'm well on pace to do that. And this month, I tried to challenge myself by reading more outside of my normal realm. That started with, you guessed it, a challenge book. And that was a collection of short fiction, the best American short stories of 2022. Now, you might hear short story and think that shouldn't be a challenging thing, right? Well, they're by a dozen different authors, and so there's no consistency in tone of speech. There's nothing to engage you to bring you through all these pages. So this took me a little bit of time to get through. The stories were all really good, but nothing was making me leap from one story to the next. I balanced that out with fun book. For me, that was a coupling of a fun coming out memoir, Would You Rather by Katie Heaney, and then a couple of collections of poetry. These two were really fun, really simple, nothing too deep, just enough where after every one I felt like I was getting substance, but I could read both of these in one sitting. Next, I went for another challenge read, and for me, that was a challenge by length. This book is over 400 pages, The Appeal by Janice Hallett, but it was incredible. It ended up being a fun read for me. When I was done with this, to make sure I caught up on time, I read Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, and this book was so fun, super simple. I've said it a couple times before, basically a Starbucks read of books. I rounded out the month with a more challenging read. It was a collection of poetry by Ocean Vuong. He's really, really talented, and even though this is an incredibly short collection, the subject matter was very challenging, very hard to go through. He did it beautifully, but there are a lot of poems you want to sit with and process. So this is something I had to read and put down, read and put down. Couple of sittings and I was able to read it. So that gives you an idea of challenge books versus fun books and how I try to balance them out through a month to make sure I can read as much as possible. Challenge books can sometimes slow your reading down and can send you into a slump, or if you're already in a slump and trying to break out of one, a challenge read isn't the best way to go. What I like to do is start everyone with a fun book, or as I like to call them, bubblegum books, something that is so incredibly exciting to you personally. And for you, that could be a collection of poetry. It could be a historical nonfiction book about 1800s France. It's up to you what that fun read is, but make something that drives you to every single page. So when you finish it, you have this excitement and you want to pick up the next read. Then I would balance that out with a challenge book. Bring it back and forth in whatever amount of proportions you need. If you have 2 to 1, 2 challenge books, and then you want 10 fun books, that's all up to you. But for me, this is an incredibly helpful pattern, and being able to establish my own pattern and then adjust it based on the challenge books I read or the fun books I read is so crucial. Next, I want to talk to you a little bit about my April book haul. I picked a lot of books up this month, definitely way outside my usual book budget. I went to a lot of different indie stores for the first time, had a lot of cool opportunities to see writers, and so I picked up a few more than usual, including the 4 I just talked about, and this one is backwards. But I picked up Cry Perfume because I got to see Sadie Dupuis do a reading, and that was incredible. Then I was on a poetry kick because April is National Poetry Month. I picked up Ocean Vuong's book. It's also the first one I've read of him, and so that was really cool just to get like a little like toe in the water on him. Then I picked up The Appeal at an indie bookstore in Little Rock, Arkansas. I love this book. One of the best purchases I've ever made. And Legends and Lattes, I picked up at another indie bookstore in Arkansas. Again, one I wanted to read for a while and was just excited to support the store by picking up something I knew I would enjoy. Now you're probably thinking, 4 books isn't that bad, Isabel. That's a pretty solid book buying a month. And I completely agree with you. If only I had stopped at 4 books that I had purchased in April. Instead, I fully sent it. I'm gonna start out with one that I was like gifted. My friend and I are doing this thing where we were buying books and then we're gonna swap them. And so she picked up The Thursday Murder Club and then gave it to me to read first. Loved it. I'm gonna have a video about this soon. I'm doing like a cozy mystery book video, so look out for that. And I picked up the sequel to Thursday Murder Club that I'm reading right now. The Man Who Died Twice. It's so good. I love it. He's just Richard Osman. Chef's kiss. So that's really more like a half of a book purchase between these two because my friend and I are both picking them up. So that's just one. These two are one. Okay, deal? I've also developed a low-key short story addiction, and so I picked up Ling Ma's Bliss Montage Stories. I'm so excited about this. It's my very first taste of her writing, but I've heard incredible things. I've heard it's super fun, and I love seeing how writers can approach short fiction. Okay, this is sort of like an in memoriam because we need to have a moment of silence for Book Depository. Let me just... Thank you. So I picked up 2 books with the British covers because I love the British covers so much more than the US covers. And I got them on Book Depository 2 days before they closed. And that was Lessons in Chemistry. I mean, look at this thing. This is one of the most beautiful books I've ever seen. I'm so excited to read this. It's also the biggest paperback I've ever seen in my life. This thing is huge. After that, I picked up Cleopatra and Frankenstein, which I've heard that people like me who are Sally Rooney fans will love. I mean, just look how beautiful that font is and the color. If I publish a book one day, I'm gonna take inspiration. I'm gonna walk into the room and be like, we're gonna need this. We're gonna need a little bit of this. These next 2 books I also picked up at indie bookstores in Arkansas, and that is Piranesi by Susanna Clark. I picked this up purely because Jack Edwards told me to. He controls my life and my wallet. If you have not seen it yet, please go check out my video on Arkansas indie bookstores. I had so much fun shooting it and visiting all those stores, and they're amazing booksellers. Absolutely check them out if you're ever in Arkansas. The final one that I got from an indie bookstore in Arkansas is a tip for The Hangman. I got this at Underbrush Books, and they are so funny. The owners there were awesome. And I picked this up, which is like a queer retelling of Christopher Marlowe. Really pumped to read this soon. These are the last 2 books I got in April. I picked them up at a garage sale. I got Me Talk Pretty One Day by David Sedaris. I read one of his Christmas collections of stories this past year and loved it, so I'm really excited about this. And Playing for Pizza by John Grisham. I've only ever read his sports books, and basically the one that Christmas for the Cranks is based on, Skipping Christmas. So I'm excited to read this, even though I know this is not what he's known for. It should be a pretty short, quick one. I'm gonna read this really soon. That's a little bit about how I read a lot and how I buy a lot of books, which are 2 different lessons you can learn from me this month. I'm really grateful that I've been able to pick up all these books, and I'm thinking soon I'm gonna do a giveaway of other books I'm ready to unhaul in my shelves. If that's something you'd be interested in, subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications so that when I give away books, you are ready and in the know. Okay, hope you guys have a great week. Happy reading.